Crazy, crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Did you know that you could get 50 to over 100?
Burn live, marijuana keeping you connected, hashtagging these red eyes, changing the view with eye red, keeping underage, smoking off social media, killing myself for your entertainment, sitting here with friends and families, starting a cannabisation. I appreciate people stopping through, even if it's just for a second. I appreciate it. Today I wanted to go live and talk about some things that's really been put out there in the media with the war, and people want to talk about what's good and bad in society. I think this things like this should be discussed. I do got a couple of videos to bring up just to let you know. We will be smoking some weed. This, like I said, marijuana keeping you connected. Hashtagging these red eyes, changing the viewers I red. I appreciate people stopping through. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, people, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you are having a good week. I hope your week is going good. Whenever time you're watching this, I hope that things are getting better. Understand that. Look, look. I know what's going off in the news. I just had a discussion with a person that for some odd reason, just maybe, I feel like I know a little bit what's going on. I'm not trying to say I'm an expert. Never once in my life have I ever gonna sit up here and say, "Yo, I'm an expert. I know exactly what's going on. I can tell you everything." No, I come on here to smoke weed, to smoke a blunt with you, to discuss things and to talk about things that are going on. Yes, majority of the things that I talk about are political because those things that are truly matters. When marijuana was getting put on the ballot to become legalization, everybody was talking about it. It was part of the government, it was part of politics, everybody was in it. It was a good topic to talk as a marijuana cannabis channel. Now that we're surpassed that and it's legal in 32 states and recreational stuff like that, everybody's just trying to find their own little lane to go in, which I am steady saying that yes, I am still for the political attribute that goes on into going into weed. Um I'm ready, but not fully ready. I see I gotta cut on I forgot to cut on my lights and stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So I am going to play this quick video just so y'all can see what's going on, enlighten you guys on what's going on, and then we are going to get into some things. Let me get fully set up. I appreciate y'all standing tuned.
He's a staunch conservative, is got backing of moderates today on the floor, the kind of backing from moderates that Jim Jordan didn't have and deprived him of the speakership. Now, to your question about what Johnson's pitch is, we just got a little breaking news on that because we're getting a letter that Johnson has circulated amongst House Republicans. I'm looking at it here below the screen. And it essentially creates a very ambitious timeline. It's one of the pitches that he's making, this ambitious timeline to pass spending bills and avert a government shutdown. Remember, you've got to pass spending bills. You've got to fund the government by November 17th, or there is a government shutdown. And Johnson is calling for spending bills on energy and water to be passed this week, it looks like, and then another round of bills to be passed next week, and onward until the week of November 13th. So that's one of his pitches, is that he can do regular order. He can pass these spending bills on the floor the way they're meant to be passed, and frankly, the way that the bulk of the House Republican Conference wants them to be passed, and do it without a continuing resolution, which is what McCarthy did to avert a government shutdown not long ago, and what drew a lot of criticism from conservatives because they don't like governing via continuing resolution. They want to pass spending bills to fund the government and not just fund the government at the current levels that it was previously funded at, which is what a continuing resolution is. So that's one of Johnson's pitches to lawmakers, not just that he can unite the party, but also that he can do this ambitious timeline of conservative principles on the House floor, and is going to start that with spending bills that would avert a government shutdown.
Rick, even if that all goes to plan, 22 days without a speaker, how much damage do you think that's done to the Republican Party? And if Johnson is elected, how can he try to undo that damage?
Well, I think that the next move becomes important because it's been a huge embarrassment for them to go 3+ weeks. And what happened inside of that 3 weeks was the
I want to go to CNN's Bryn Gingras. She's following Donald Trump's civil fraud trial in New York. The former president, I take it, Bryn, taking the stand just a little while ago to answer questions about the gag order he's under. What's happening in the courtroom?
Yeah, well, so this is taking the stand not as someone to testify, but in response to that gag order that was
This is
issued
what
by
people want to
this
see right
judge
here.
earlier in this trial. Now, let me back up just a little bit to explain what happened. During one of the breaks.
How many people in your family you know? How many people in your family you know would sit up here and say that, hey, man, I want to see Trump locked up? It's so many people.
The former president went into the hall room, as he usually does, and made some comments. And what he said in those comments was that he called the judge partisan, and he said the person sitting next to him is very partisan. Now, keep in mind that gag order, when it was put in place by this judge, said that Trump could not speak ill about anyone on his staff. Well, everyone was brought back into the courtroom. There were a few sidebars, and the judge asked Trump who he was talking about. His lawyers responded, and Trump said that, or his lawyer said that Trump was talking about the judge and the person sitting next to him, who was Michael Cohen, who was testifying at the time. Now, I need to just, again, back up a little bit to explain what it looks like in the courtroom. In this courtroom, the judge is in the middle. To his right is his court clerk. To his left is the person testifying. So the judge took it that Trump was talking about his court clerk, which would have been a violation of this gag order. There was a break in the courtroom, and then once lunch had come back, the judge made Trump take the stand and under oath say who he was talking about. Former president took the stand and again said that he was talking about the judge and Michael Cohen in his comments. Well, the moment Trump left the stand, the judge said this: as the trier of fact, I find that the witness is not credible. And he was referring to my law clerk. He fined the president $10,000. Now, again, the former president, $10,000. Again, this is the second time that he has received a fine based off of this gag order and violating it. Now, Trump's attorneys at this point are fighting back, essentially saying that he can't say he was lying. He just took the oath. And they also were complaining about the fact that this law clerk is seated right next to the judge, calling it unusual when law clerks are typically sitting usually in front of the judge in a courtroom. So there's a big back and forth about this law clerk. Trump's attorneys arguing that they're getting this case tried by two judges because of the position of where this law clerk is standing, or sitting rather. The judge said that he has reconsidered this fine, and he's keeping with it. $10,000 fine against the former president for those comments that he made earlier today. So a lot of.
So Trump took the stand. Judge asked who he talking to. He told you who he talking to. And then you rule like, no, that's not good enough. I'm calling you a liar just so I can find you some money, just so I can get paid, just so I can make headline news. That's how Trump supporters taking it. I'm just letting you know. That's how Trump supporters is taking it. You finding him this money just so he can make headline news. Do you know people is finna donate that money right back to Trump so fast? What do you not understand? How fast he's finna get that money put back into his account so he can go get back on the campaign. That man probably got fined, paid that fine, did a rally, and made that money back at the rally. But then you will say that that's wrong, and how can you do that when the man just did it? It amazes me when people are upset and don't like what's going on, but they still have the finger to blame a person for actions when they admit their own actions. When somebody admit their own actions, why can't we take them for what they said? Now, true indeed, people lie, and you can always catch a person up in a lie. Okay, you lied, whatever. Well, but most of the time, If a person is talking to somebody, they're gonna address who they're gonna talk about. They're gonna say it. That's what men do. Men let you know who they are talking to. It's starting to amaze me how bad of the syndrome are people. Now, I personally got me a nice roll blunt. I personally been talking to some people who don't like Trump, who looked at me very awkwardly. They was like, I can't believe you're a Trump supporter and stuff like this. But then we got to sitting down talking and discussing and looking at things. And they was like, wow, you really look. I look at situations abruptly, out of the box, out of character. I try not to think about race unless it's a race based issue. Then I try to think of it if it wasn't race. And I truly do. People can always say that, oh, Michael, you're racist. You want to racist people out there because you don't like your own kind. You're quick to throw your own kind under a bus. And I was like, no, I'm quick to look at the issue that my kind, my people, my culture has, that my culture has, and I'm willing to try to fix it. I'm willing to confront it. That's what I'm willing to do that my community is willing not to do. And when you are willing not to confront the issue, you're always going to have these problems. And as you see, man got confronted on, felt some type of way, called Trump up to the stand. Hey, Trump, who you talking about? I'm talking to you, Judge, and the man on the witness stand. Now you talking to this other guy over here. So why did you call him to the stand?
The drama happening in regards
Why
to the
would you
gag order.
call
This
him
is
to
in
the
addition
stand?
to the drama that has been unfolding all day with Michael Cohen, the former personal attorney of Donald Trump, on the stand. But that is what we're hearing right now from the courtroom about a $10,000 fine again against the president in regards to this gag order. Well,
Very interesting indeed. $10,000. That's the fine. Obviously, for Trump, that's not a whole lot of money, but it's still significant indeed. Caitlin Collins is working her sources as well. Caitlin, what's your reaction? What should we interpret this development as being?
I mean, Wolf, this gag order has only been in place for 22 days, and now Trump has been accused of violating it twice. He has now been fined twice. This fine that Bryn was just reporting there, it is double the fine that happened the first time. And that first fine was because, of course, Trump's post initially about the judge's clerk, that the judge said he didn't believe Trump was referring to Michael Cohen today. The judge believed that he was again referring to that same.
Now, this lady right here that we just said is the lady who tried to so-called fact check Trump in real time. And you can have your opinion of how she did. I heard all the opinions, good and bad. But the thing is, some of the stuff that she tried to fact check Trump on was incorrect. She was technically incorrect. So how good is her journalism now if it's not creditable? I'm just kind of curious. You know what I'm saying? It really don't matter because I'm assuming that
Trump
people say she did a
was
good
referring
job.
to Michael Cohen today. The judge believed that he was again referring to that same clerk. That is something that Trump had posted at the beginning of October, claiming that this clerk was running this case, implied that she was Chuck Schumer's girlfriend. Obviously, both baseless claims that Trump had posted simply because there was a photo of this clerk and Senator Schumer posted online. And so that judge put it in place then saying, you can talk about me, but do not talk about the court staff. And he is taking this very seriously, Wolf. And you're right that $10,000 is not a lot of money for the former president. But I mean, he doesn't like to be fined any kind of money. He doesn't like to pay any kind of legal fees. So I do think the notion of the fine in and of itself is not something that'll sit well with him, that he won't be just completely dismissive of it.
Who wants
But
to
it
pay
does show how
fine?
seriously
Nobody.
the judge is taking this, Wolf. And I think there's a reason why, because
Nobody likes to get fined any type of money. Quit playing. That's not sit up here and like, oh yeah, man, you know, this person get fined. It doesn't. Nigga, you could find the richest person in the world. You find him some type of money where he has to go take it out of an account. He just can't pay it cash on deck on him. Yes, nigga, bro, sir, ma'am. Everybody is gonna have a problem. Everybody's gonna have a problem. I don't think
Attention retirees.
I don't think people really see the stature of how good or how bad a situation may be until it's too late. For a prime example, uh, Chicago and New York, they didn't understand how bad situation got until the migrants start migrating to Chicago and what's called. Then they couldn't do nothing about it. You know?
I have a hard time thinking about somebody as unqualified for their job as Karine Jean-Pierre is unqualified to essentially be the White House spokesperson or the White House press secretary. Now, of course, I mean, Joe Biden is equally as unqualified, if not even more unqualified to be president, so there is that. But like I always say, Joe Biden's got an excuse. Karine Jean-Pierre, no excuse. Just incompetence and dishonesty, nothing else. Well, today's Karine Jean-Pierre highlight, or I guess we could call it lowlight, is exactly that. I mean, it's the perfect mix. A dishonest Biden shill actor who also happens to be completely incompetent and can't understand basic concepts when presented with the facts. Surprisingly enough, coming from the White House press corps. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes Karine Jean-Pierre is asked a real question, and boy, when that happens, well, you get moments like these.
Boy, and for this person to be a press secretary and to go through this is what I'm not gonna lie to you. It seemed embarrassing.
Here she is looking like a deer caught in the headlights, not knowing what hit her, and her response or her non-response pretty much tells the whole story. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so it seems like some of these mainstream media journalists are finally starting to catch on that policies or policy changes have end results. You know, they mean something, they do something. Sometimes they do something good. Sometimes the results are positive, and sometimes, well, when Joe Biden makes the decisions, the results are always, well, extremely negative. Take a look at this.
I want to ask you about current energy prices and Iran, if I could. So Iran makes 70% of its revenue from oil. It's doubled that oil output since 2019, adding $40 billion to revenues. So are the president's current energy policies giving Iran enough money to fund terror groups? Because the price of oil has gone up under this president. The former President Trump, the average price of Brent oil was $58. Under this president, it's $83 a barrel. So the price of oil is more. Giving Iran.
I heard on this. I heard that the Trump's administration barrels of oil was $30 a barrel. Now we're at $80 a barrel of oil.
Enough money to fund these terror groups in the Middle East.
I mean, I wholeheartedly disagree that our actions are giving. Is that what you're saying? Can you say that again?
The current energy policies in the U.S.
From our energy policies.
Yeah, seeing the price of oil go up because when you restrict supply here in the United States, it's forcing to get the global supply from somewhere else. OPEC is cutting prices of oil, so the price of oil goes up.
Yeah, and we're not part of OPEC, as you know.
Right. She said when you have to outsource our oil from somewhere else, that means we're not getting our oil from the main consumers that we was getting our oil from when we first got into this mess. Now we're getting our oil from somewhere else that's taxing the shit out of us. And then y'all have restrictions. Like he said, it's plain and simple. You got restrictions on how we receive oil to America.
So they're going to make their decisions on whatever they decide. We are not a member of OPEC.
The administration has decided to regulate the oil industry here in the U.S. and restrict investment, future investment in the oil supply in the U.S. And so as the price of oil goes up, is that giving Iran enough money to fund these terror groups?
It seems to be a big jump. And so certainly I'm not going to speak into that type of hypothetical.
Bruh, if a company that you know that is funded and ran by terrorist groups are surrounded, ladies and gentlemen, or even if it's surrounded by terrorist group like you know it is in Iran and Iraq and Pakistan and all these foreign countries in the Middle East. We know that for a fact that most of these countries are surrounded by terrorists. If they are making amount of money, that means doubling and tripling their amount of money. Do you think they have enough money to fund? Is either no, I don't think that's a dumb question, or yes, maybe that can be an assumption, but I have no proof to back that up.
Sounds like a hypothetical that you're asking me, so certainly I'm not going to weigh into this. I'm just not going to weigh into a hypothetical here. Go ahead, Phil.
What is so complicated? Either Karine Jean-Pierre is dumb and like literally doesn't understand the point that this guy's making, or it's just an act. She knows that he's right. She knows that there's a correlation. She knows that they are failing, whether purposefully or not, and so she's stalling for time trying to come up with something. Her snarky genius response was, well, we're not OPEC, and so I don't understand the question. See the face that she's making? I mean, she thinks she's so smart. She's making this face as if she's confused, as if it's a dumb question, but it is anything but. The only person who looks dumb here is obviously Karine Jean-Pierre. I mean, just look at that smug, arrogant facial expression and those slight facial movements. What don't you get, KJP? You know, you're acting all surprised, but you shouldn't be surprised considering we have literally been yelling from the mountaintops for years that this is exactly what is going to happen. This is why energy independence is so important. We live in a global world, and there's this interesting concept called supply and demand. There's a whole lot of demand for oil. If we decide to pull back, if we decide that we're going to start imposing taxes and regulations, as well as stopping federal drilling permits, it doesn't mean that the entire world is going to follow us. In fact,
that's what you mean by restrictions. That's restriction that people can't drill for oil here in America. You trying to reduce fraction, which people try to get on Governor Santos for doing, like, you want fraction everywhere but Florida. True indeed. I don't think anybody wants you to start digging for oil in Florida, messing up the beaches and messing up the views and stuff, like messing up the ecosystem. It's basically what people be saying when you dig for oil, you're messing up the ecosystem.
The opposite. If anything, it creates a vacuum. We could be producing our own energy. We could be totally energy independent, taking away leverage, taking away power from authoritarian regimes, and in this case, Iran, a terrorist funding authoritarian regime. But instead, what do? We play directly into the hands of OPEC. We play directly into the hands of China, Russia, Iran. We've been saying that forever. That is the importance of energy independence. But instead, what did we do? Well, we gave all the leverage to the Saudis. And thanks to Joe Biden, we allowed the Iranian regime to fully recover economically. I showed you guys this chart just the other day in a video. Do you see the devastating effect only a couple years of Donald Trump had on the Iranian regime's GDP? I mean, truly devastating. Going from 2016, that was Obama's last year in office, to 2018, their GDP completely inverted. I wonder if that had something to do with Donald Trump's stances on foreign policy, sanctions, tariffs, and maybe something to do with Donald Trump's energy policies. Of course it did. What you're seeing here is essentially visual representation of Trump's policies. Then the moment Joe Biden takes over, well, you see the same kind of instant result now, don't you? And if that wasn't enough, Joe Biden decided to add insult to injury by...
That's crazy. You can see, like they said, the end of Obama's 2016. Look at that chart, man. That's crazy. Gas prices, man. Or like he said, foreign policy. When people get to learning, and I understand America, we, like I said, man, all we want to do is smoke weed and chill and not worry about this shit. I don't give a fuck. I hear the stories every day. I don't give a fuck about none of this shit. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, your Uber prices are going to start going up for those who don't drive. Car prices, house prices, groceries. When you start being more conservative of your money, and that just let me know the people that tell me aren't conservative of the money. A lot of people are conservative of money, they just don't want to say they are, but they are. When you're making sure every dollar that you spend has been accountable for, is going to some good cause. That's the point that we are trying to make and trying to put across. That's what we mean. That shows you on this chart. On this chart, when you see this chart, that shows you what we need to do. We need somebody who can go in Iran and say, hey, we're not going to pay these high ass prices for gas when we can dig here. We have to dig everywhere we can dig places here.
By recently promising to release $6 billion in withheld frozen funds to the Iranian regime. Now they're telling us that actually they're not going to release the $6 billion, but it's too little too late and the damage has already been done. Joe Biden's policies are funding terrorism, whether directly or indirectly. Directly by, I don't know, leaving billions of dollars of weapons, munitions, and equipment, top military technology to the Taliban in Afghanistan, arming terrorist groups across the Middle East. I'd say that's pretty direct, or indirectly by weakening the United States of America on the world stage. This is the result of weak foreign policy. This is the result of apologetic, naive, globalist, liberal policy. This is what you get. It's the same way Joe Biden is funding the cartels. Maybe he's not directly funding the cartels, although we don't know exactly.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that.
Well, actually, we kind of do. The whole Fast and Furious scandal, kind of an example of exactly that. But Joe Biden's border policy is a whole lot more dangerous. We're just allowing open borders. Because compassion, what it really is weak American non-leadership. And who stands to benefit? It certainly isn't America. No, it's the cartels and the drug smugglers and the human smugglers. Idiotic policies that embolden, empower, and enrich our enemies and weaken and endanger us all. It's pretty freaking cut and dry. Joe.
That's crazy, bro. That was just a little bit on the gas price that we got going on, just so y'all can see, like, yo, this really be going down. Oh, snaps. What's been going on?
Democracy is messy sometimes, but it is our system. This conference that you see, this House Republican majority is united.
Mr. Johnson, you helped lead the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Will you share your
Next question.
Do you support additional aid to You've asked your question.
You asked your question. Go away.
Oh my God.
What did she say? By the way, who was that?
Okay, I found
Virginia
her.
Fox for North Carolina.
North Carolina?
She's a nasty little woman.
She's the meanest Republican.
Nasty. Y'all sound like Trump be talking.
There, and I saw her say "shut up," and I said, "One, so right away, the words of this are like another example of what people we can't say shut up in my house.
No,
like, my toddlers
by the
don't
way,
say shut up.
It's a lack of decorum, and it's beneath the dignity of that.
Sonny, she gets richer. She voted against aid for Hurricane Katrina, opposes abortion. That one I'll forgive her, but has been against every LGBTQ advancement, opposed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd, voted against Don't Ask, Don't Tell. This woman sounds perfect for the job.
The best part about her is that she serves as a chair of the Education Committee.
Oh, and by the way,
all right, guys, so we got to talk about the GOP Speaker of the House situation, the soap opera that seemed like it would never end, okay? I mean, like the actual soap operas that never end, okay, that are seemingly going to be on TV forever. That's kind of what it seemed like the GOP Speaker of the House situation was going to be like, okay? A never-ending soap opera. However, we have come to an end of the soap opera for now, okay, as Republicans have elected Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana to be Speaker of the House. And what was basically a unanimous House floor vote, showing that the Republican Party is finally united on who's going to lead the party. Now, with that being said, we got to get into the left-wing liberal reaction because you guys already know they're melting down, boohoo, whining, and crying about Mike Johnson, who is a family man, right? He's a family man, a traditional social conservative, and you know that scares the left more than anything. I mean, you already have people calling him a Christo-fascist simply for referencing the Bible during his speaker speech, right? He's, reading scripture, referencing scripture. Apparently that makes him a bad person. And you have AOC, who is calling him an extremist, right? He has a history of pissing Democrats off, including calling for Nancy Pelosi to be arrested.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Loving this.
From Louisiana is
This is what we
seek
need.
unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter dated January 12, 2021 by Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry, where he decries all political violence and calls for an end to that. And
Nancy
asks for
Pelosi,
respect
they should
for
make
all
a
political
movie by her.
Without objection,
Another thing we
got
can
paid off
examine
stock
because he's
market.
not here.
No, you can
Thank
you. I
examine it.
would've
It's a
known.
document. He's gonna
No,
enter into the
examine
record.
him for what he wrote and the intent behind what he said.
Well, I would
But,
just
okay.
I would
Go
just
on.
point out that that's unanimous consents are for documents, and we got the document right here
Chairman,
that he handed to you.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous
The chair
consent.
now recognizes Ms.
Mr.
Wasserman
Chairman,
Schultz for her
I
5
have a
minutes.
unanimous consent request, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
I have a unanimous.
Oh, okay. Gentlelady is recognized for unanimous consent request.
So you were obviously watching there at the State of the Union. When you saw the speaker rip the president's speech into pieces, did you take that as a sign of politeness, as an expression of kindness and friendship?
No, of course not. I mean, it was a shameful display. It was
Ladies
stunning,
and
really, to
gentlemen,
many members
this is why I
sitting in
love
the House.
this.
It was totally
Love
unprecedented.
this.
It was
Look at
shameless,
this.
and it
Is-
was also unlawful, Tucker.
We see
a lot of
Democrats do
people
the
have been
same
talking
thing
about this the last
Republicans
48
do.
hours, and I did a little
Cry
legal
and
memo to point out to my
boo-hoo
colleagues that she actually
do
committed a
that.
felony when she tore that paper
Somebody
up.
does
It wasn't just
something,
any copy
who
of the state.
taken to jail over, and look, Democrats can do anything. I talked to my fellow friends and associates and people of color. I talked to my friends and family, and I asked questions to see how they vote and how they think of society in America. And a lot of people is still on this verge of like the government's crooked and there's nothing we can do about it. And for those people who believe that and like, hey man, the government's crooked, there's nothing we can do about it, there's always something that you can do. You can go find that person that you do believe in, that you trust to get the job done and get what you believe in a point across and go vote for him, and then help another person in another state. I know it's the most slowest. You're gonna die before you receive a result. And I know I watch memes and things too of different quotes. Oh, if you don't do this, and if you do this and this and this, you die for nothing, because 20-30 years after life, nobody's going to remember your name. And yes, I bring it up in different conversations for people just to see a reaction of how people think. Now, the time that we are here on this earth, and you fight for what you fight, and you believe for what you believe in, and you stand up for what you stand for, I believe is powerful. I believe that's what you should do. You should instill what you believe in by leaving breadcrumbs into the next generation. In my situation, by me not able to raise my son the way I want to, I have left these tapes like this in my behalf. So when my son be like, Dad, you wasn't there, and what was you about, and what type of person you come, he can like, oh, he can go back to Burn Live and sit there and say, yeah, my dad smoked weed, but he also talked about how to make America great, how the black people out here are worth it. You know what I'm saying? We're not bad people, and all we got to do is just stick up for each other and vote and start businesses and raise banks, and we do have rich communities, and all we have to do is stick together. We did it in the 40s, we did it in the 20s, We did it in the 60s. We did it in the 80s, early 80s. We had it popping, well, late 70s, early 80s, however you want to look at it. But it can happen. These things can happen. Quit looking at these people that I got on my screen as a black person and be like, oh, these people are all racist. They're all against black people. Because that's anybody black that comes see my channel that sees this, that's the first thing that's going to come across their mind is, oh, he's racist. He's just for them white folks. And it kills me that a person can keep saying he just for them white folks. He just for them white folks. I took the time out to look for the truth. I didn't care where it came from. It came from the Munda. I just look for the truth. I accept things for what happened in the past history for things that have happened. Yes, I have accepted for what it is. I'm not finna play shady on saying things did not happen. Yes, slavery did happen. Slavery was wrong. They fought for freedom. Now people are free. You see how I'm not ignoring that slavery happened. Yes, there were people here before Christopher Columbus came and discovered that he wanted to try to turn this land into Spain and brought the British right along to it. I understand these concepts. I understand when we fought the North versus the South, all Americans versus Americans, blacks versus whites versus black, British versus Spain, that the Constitution was made for everybody that's wanted to stay here and live here in America for us to be free. I get that. I get that back in the early 1800s where people scammed on the future of becoming leaders and making sure that their family tide was breaded into some money for longevity so the next generation can have wealth. Hey, it happened. These things happened. These things took place. These things were broken down. These things took effect. Some things were pretty, a lot of things were ugly. I do understand that the government drug tested the army with drugs before they put it into the cities in the United States of America to try to control the population. Yes, I get that. I see that happening. Was it good? No. Am I for the government? No. I just want a government that wants to be less in my business, more in keeping United States running great, make businesses and small businesses grow, legalize things that need to be legal, lock up criminals, people smoke their weed, go to work, have a good home paying, come home, take care of their families, do whatever the hell they want to do, and go on about their lives. That's is what type of America that I see that I am looking for. And that America is slowly falling toward. Now, yes, I can admit that we have taken a big step backwards. I'm haven't went over here and super bashed the president like I thought I was gonna be doing this year. You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping it civilized. I'm saying just see the facts. You're trying to lock up Trump. You know what I'm saying? You got people that's getting indicted for these cases. You're looking at these cases. You're looking at these all these indictments. He got 100 and some odd charges. He's facing 300 some odd years. But yet again, you got judges who even go on X, who go on Instagram and say he's guilty. But yet again, when facts are facts are facts are facts, he's seen not to be that guilty, or guilty of petty crimes, or paying a prostitute off, or some petty stuff like that. Like, come on, people, come on, man. I just heard a case not too long ago I don't know if I'm gonna bring it up here or not. I'm not too sure. I don't know if I want to bring it up here because it was really weird. It's a weird case, but it happened. A guy was on shrooms, got on a plane, and tried to take down the plane. When he was about to arrest, he tried to jump from the plane. These are things that actually happened. It was a weird story. You know what I'm saying? Dude, like, hey, I've been there for 40 hours on some shrooms. I had a bad trip. You can already hear a black person if somebody said that happened to him, he'd have been shot dead and all that stuff that happened. I'd be like, I don't know, maybe, probably. Maybe because the black person had been a little bit more threatening, a little bit more convincing of taking down the airplane. I don't know. 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 But I went into a long story to get back to this point right here. I'm glad I didn't get too lost. I'm sorry if I lost you. But to get all of that saying, when you got a Democratic Party like Nancy Pelosi, who wants to be all in our business, who wants to control everything, who wouldn't want her kids going to the same school my black ass kid go to. I'm just keeping it real. I do say things like that. It's amazing when you got black people in Chicago who's not for pro school, who don't want your school, want you as a parent to choose to smoke your weed and like, hey, I don't want you to go to this school around the corner because it's a bad school. They don't know how to teach. It's been proven. I want you to go to this school that's 3 hours away. Yes, you got to wake up 3 hours early. You might be upset, but it's good training for the mind for you later on. We as kids don't get that harder the work you work as a kid, the better the outcome you as an adult. It makes life easier because all the heartache that you went through as a kid, you see it as an adult, it's nothing. It's nothing. And we don't see it like that. We don't look at it like that. We really don't. But let's get back into this story. And that's basically what you're looking at when you look at the government.
State of the Union address, it was the copy, the original. And we have over 2 centuries of custom and tradition, and of course the Constitution that calls for the State of the Union address, that when the president delivers the copies to those top legal officers, the 2 top legislative officers in that co-equal branch of government, those are the official documents of the House. And if you tear those up, you violated a specific statute in the criminal code.
So again, naturally, liberals are panicking over what you would think will be their worst nightmare. Just paying attention to their reaction. Take a look.
Well, they did it. There's a new Speaker of the House. This is Mike Johnson. He represents Louisiana. He's a Republican and a part of the Christian right faction of the party. He has extremely close ties to Christian fundamentalist groups like...
What violence have Christians done in America? Look, even I asked that question, I had to think real quick. Hold on, wait a minute. Wait. But I'm just saying how this person right here is presenting this case of this guy is weird. Like, why are you presenting like this? Like Christian, he's a Christian. He's part of the Christian Revelation. He goes to church every Sunday. He was baptized at the age of 16.
Focus on the family and the Alliance Defending Freedom. In fact, he used to be an attorney and the media spokesperson for the Alliance Defending Freedom. Johnson does not believe in climate change. He does believe in conversion therapy. He supported Donald Trump's ban on Muslim immigrants. And in 2019 and 2020, he served on Trump's legal counsel for the Senate impeachment trials. He has actively campaigned against the day of anti-bullying and campaigned for students to have the ability to pray out loud in class as part of their First Amendment rights.
Welcome to the car rant. I'm too angry to speak, so I figured it's a good time to do it publicly, right? I'm talking about the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, a guy who's only been in politics since 2016, a guy who helped engineer and sort of, grease the wheels of Trump's attempted coup to overthrow.
When people use the word kill, because my guy at work used the word cool. He looked it up and it was funny. But when you use the word cool, it really makes you think of, yes, the word clan. Like, are we really a clan? Like, do y'all really want to lock up everybody who thought Trump was a good idea, was a good president, just because it was our opinion? That we got facts to go back that up with? This is the part where I sit and I'll be like, interesting. What are we looking at? What are we getting into? What are we based off of? What is the real threat that we're really looking at today? Is we really seeing a threat? Is it really a threat out here that we're facing, that we're looking at? I wonder sometimes about people and how they think, bro. That's why I'm quick to ask questions to people. I look up news. I hear podcasts every day, all day. Yeah, so it gets my mind thinking like, okay, this is the broad. You know what I'm saying? Some people be doing surveys and stuff on there, do a lot of polling, and I'll be like, okay, cool, cool. Like, this is awesome. I get, what I'm saying, feedback of things that I be thinking about too. But when y'all say the word cool, do y'all really think that guys need to be locked up for their thoughts and their patterns?
A free and fair election on behalf of Donald Trump, right? A guy who's paid for many, many abortions in his lifetime of philandering and worse, right? A sexual predator, drug addicted scumbag who's sitting in a New York City courtroom.
Drug addiction scumbag. Wow. And from my understanding, most people that on drug addiction don't become successful millionaires. I'm just putting it out there. That's just what I hear. Like, it's really hard for you to stay on top and do drugs. Like, that two don't mix.
Right now, mad mugging his lawyer because his lawyer is telling the truth about, Trump's bullshit, business operation that everybody just turned a blind eye to in New York City for decades, including NBC, who gave him a freaking TV show pretending he was a billionaire when we all knew that was anything but the truth. I worked on it. I saw it firsthand. Okay. Trump is a joke and a clown. The GOP knows that, but these are extreme angry men. This little Oliver Peoples wearing punk ass congressman now turned speaker.
For a person that worked on that show and it was a successful show, so that means you was getting paid. That means this guy was getting paid. But now that he's running for president, y'all look at him like he's a scumbag. He's the worst thing ever. You just can't function with his morality and how he moves the crowd and how people wants to feng shui with the man. Is it really that bad? Nobody will dare answer that question. Is it really that bad?
Speaker is one of the most extreme anti-abortion people in this country. Okay. He wants to arrest doctors who perform abortions to save a woman's life.
Guys, nothing makes me laugh more than liberal tears, right? I love the liberal tears, okay? They're making me like the guy, right? They're making me like the guy, okay? The liberal tears, the melting down. And apparently Trump also likes the guy, which probably is the primary reason why he didn't get nuked like Tom Emmer did before he could even get a vote to be speaker.
Just want to congratulate Mike Johnson, being a great Speaker of the House, and we were very happy to help. I've known him for a long difficult time. He's a tremendous leader, a tremendous man, comes from a wonderful place, Louisiana. He's going to make us all proud. So at this time yesterday, nobody was thinking of Mike. And then we put out the word, and now he's the Speaker of the House. So I want to just thank all of the supporters that I have, and I want to thank all of the supporters that Mike has. And again, he'll be a great speaker. I think you're going to be very proud of him. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, yesterday when I did my video about this, when Mike Johnson was originally nominated as the Republican candidate for Speaker of the House, I went over some things with you guys, just general information about him in regards to who he is. Okay, 74% Liberty score, which means he's more conservative than Kevin McCarthy, but he's not as conservative as, let's just say, probably the average Freedom Caucus Congress member. He's kind of right there in the middle, right, in regards to being a conservative. Okay, he has an F rating on Republicans for Ukraine, which is good. He has an F rating on the far left democracy score, which is also good. He voted against every Ukraine bill except the first one. And he has been an integral part of the Republicans investigating Biden, Mariakis, and some of the corruption going on in the Biden administration. Again,
my type of guy. Let me put that out there. My type of guy. My type of guy.
This guy, again, his resume is pretty good. Okay, in my opinion, what he's not is a good fundraiser, and he's also not rich. Right, he's not one of these guys that have gotten super rich from being in Congress.
That's another good thing. You can also say this. I wish that he would put out there, even though he's not a good fundraiser. Okay, whatever. But he's not out to get rich off your money. He's probably more out there to do a good job and show more effects and good hard work and then trying to raise money.
Right, which again is another plus. Okay, that's another plus. That means that he's actually going to be focused on the work, which I like more.
Oh, see how I said that before I even watched this video on me, because that's what I'm saying. Like, good, that man out there for the work. He's not out here for your money. Yeah. Now you explain this to another person. Hey, Mike Jones out there, he don't even get paid that much, and he's about this and this. You still be like he's racist. You still a black man would still say he's racist. He's racist. What part of that capiche you don't understand? The man is racist. He's racist. When I get that through your thick head, and I'm like, that's hard to say when the man hasn't did nothing racist. That's what I'm saying. That's what would be my argument with my black community. That would be my argument. Show me what he has done racist first before we say that he is racist.
So then raising money and go along and get along with the Democrats when you're negotiating from a position of leverage, which the Republicans have. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And
Mike Jones,
some of the main changes that I think will happen under Mike Johnson. But first, I actually want to play a clip of Mike Johnson in the speech that he gave during his Speaker of the House nomination, so you guys can get a better feel for who this guy is. Take a look.
And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it. And tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body, and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we're going to stand for the good in that conflict.
Now, I'm pausing it right here because I just want to let y'all know the reason that I have not really talked about the war on the war part is because of what I have been hearing. And I do understand now both sides, and I don't know how to present an opinion when is a very, very tricky conflict when it comes to the second war. Now, Ukraine versus Russia is not a very conflict. It's not very too much to put in. It's like, hey, Russia want their own property back, their own land back. Ukraine say, look, I took this, I said I took this fair and square. Why is you trying to take it back now? You got me messed up. That's how you got to look at that. But this Israel versus Hamas, that is very thin line, tricky, and you have to watch how you present when it comes to that, and you get into that and you see that happen and you see that's popping. You really do have to watch out for that. So that's why you haven't really seen me speak too much about the war and what's going on and where that be coming from.
We have a catastrophe at our southern border. The Senate and the White House can no longer ignore the problem. From Texas to New York, wave after wave of illegal migrants are stressing our communities to their breaking points. We know that our streets are being flooded with fentanyl, and all of our communities, children, and even adults are dying from it. The status quo is unacceptable. Inaction is unacceptable, and we must come together and address the broken border. We have to do it. Skyrocketing cost of living is unsustainable, and Americans should not have to worry about how they're going to feed their family every week because they can't afford their groceries anymore. Everybody in this room should think about this. Here's the stats. Prices have increased over 17% in the last 2 years. Credit card interest rates are at the highest level in nearly 3 decades, and mortgage rates are now at a peak we haven't seen since 2001. We have to bring relief to the American people by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. The greatest threat to our national security is our nation's debt. And while we've been sitting in this room, that's right, the debt has crossed almost $33.6 trillion. In the time that it's going to take me to deliver this speech, we'll go up another 20 million in debt. It's unsustainable. We have to get the country back on track. Now, we know this is not going to be an easy task, and tough decisions will have to be made. But the consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable. We have a duty to the American people to explain this to them so they understand it well. And we are going to establish a bipartisan debt commission to begin working on this crisis immediately.
Yeah. So with that being said, what do I like?
That was a good speech. Let me see if he got anything more. There, I like that speech. I'm loving that speech. And what he wants to work on. Damn, my bad. My bad, y'all. Oh, shit. Engineer is actually live. My boy Nitro is live. I'm in his live. I'm finna let him know. talking about me reading comments. It's the main guy that be talking about me reading comments. That's funny. Gotta let him know that we be watching you live. We see you live, homie. He probably ain't checking nothing because he too busy working. Hold on, give me live. That's what's up. Help me make a Cali beat. That's what's up. It's interesting what's going on.
College students at dozens of schools today are preparing to ditch class and protest Israel's response to Hamas's attempted genocide. Now, they're calling for an immediate ceasefire and the end of American aid to Israel. Meanwhile, some students at George Washington University are also demonstrating using a projector to display anti-Israel messages on the school's library. Your tuition is funding genocide in Gaza. Another says, the blood of Palestinians is on your hands. And potentially most shocking of all, this message hails glory to our martyrs, as in Hamas terrorists who butchered innocent Israeli civilians. The university has released a statement saying, in part, quote, the projections on the university's library violated university policy, and leadership intervened to ensure that these projections were removed. The statements made by these individuals in no way reflect the views of the university. We are reviewing this incident and will take any appropriate steps with respect to the individuals involved in accordance with university policies. Brooke, the point, however, is not necessarily that actually tepid response by the university, but in the freedom and emboldenment and social contagiousness that these kids feel that they are able to participate, and amplify these vile messages.
Right. So I think there's two really important points to make here. Number one, universities have a legal responsibility to ensure that the environment is not hostile and doesn't target Jewish people. And we are working at the Lawfare Project to provide pro bono legal counsel to students and professors who are suffering Title VI civil rights violations right now. But number two, people like me in the counterterrorism world and in the so-called pro-Israel advocacy world have been warning for the last 10 years about the infiltration of our academia by pro-terror and terror-affiliated groups. Students for Justice in Palestine, groups like Wall Palestine, who are pro-terror or terror-affiliated, are operating with impunity. And the Department of Education and Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are not doing enough to contain this, because this is not just a threat for Israel or Jewish people. This is a national security threat for the United States of America. Our academia is radicalized, and they're radicalizing them to be anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, and anti-American. These same people who are cheering for dead Jewish babies are also the people who were cheering on 9/11, and they're going to be cheering when there are further attacks, God forbid, on the United States.
And Ari, I argue that this represents a success of a movement.
This is why I said that having people protest out here in America over things that are happening over there in other countries should not be happening, because of the effect that it's going to put on us, and it's going to just do nothing but make us. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. This could not get no better.
Are you not entertained?
5, 4, 3, 2, I let one go.
I'm going to give you my #1 tip to get over a breakup, and that is going to be going to therapy. Going to therapy helped me so much.
We got you. We got you. And more to come.
A few moments later.
We got you. We got you. And more to come. Clown, thug, crook, criminal.
All right, guys. So now that we have a new Speaker of the House in Mike Johnson, hopefully we can deal with the insurrectionist Democrat who pulled a firearm to allegedly obstruct an official congressional proceeding, or at least that's what the story is. And we're talking about Jamal Bowman, who has now been officially criminally charged for pulling the fire alarm on Capitol Hill. And if you guys don't remember the aftermath of this incident, I will remind you guys again. Jamal Bowman pulled a fire alarm in what a lot of people thought was an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding as Congress was voting on whether or not to keep the government open. Now, Democrats were trying to delay the vote, and as Democrats were trying to delay the vote, Jamal Bowman pulled the fire alarm. Now, Jamal Bowman claims that it was an accident, right? That he's so stupid that he can't tell the difference between a fire alarm and a button to open the door.
Do you still stand by your statement that pulling the fire alarm was an accident?
I don't know why this has gotten so much attention. I was literally just in a rush to go vote, man. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Are you afraid of any repercussions, either from leadership or from legally from Capitol Police?
I mean, listen, I take responsibility for what I did, but like I said, I was in a rush to go vote, and, the investigation will sort everything else out.
Have you talked to Jeffries about it?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's day one, yes.
How was that conversation?
Well, I got to keep that between me and the leader, so I'm not going to share that publicly. Yeah, but we've been in touch with each other.
Yeah. So again, Republicans, in response to this incident, have called for Jamal Bowman to be censured and expelled for the incident.
And so I would say that it is an appropriate next step to make sure that he is held accountable, that there are consequences for his actions. And look, Democrats that entire afternoon were trying delay tactics. First, they tried to do a motion to adjourn. Then they tried to speak on the floor. Hakeem Jeffries gave a very long speech to try to further delay the vote. And then you saw the fire alarm pulled. So, it's these types of antics that the Democrats are resorting to try to disrupt proceedings. And what kind of message does it send to our young people that they can pull a fire alarm and there's zero consequences? Look, it's not just the act of pulling a fire alarm, which is a violation of DC code. But in addition to that, it was during an official proceeding. That is the same thing that they've gone after, those individuals who walked into the Capitol on January 6th. You have to have an equal distribution of justice. You can't say it's disruptive, official proceeding on one hand, event and then not hold this man accountable for doing this when we had 12 hours to go and trying to preventing a shutdown of our nation's government.
So the law in D.C., it's a misdemeanor for pulling a fire alarm falsely. It's punishable up to 6 months in jail.
And that's basically what he got, right? He got a misdemeanor charge for pulling the fire alarm, which could possibly land him in jail for 6 months, up to 6 months. So let's read about this. Rep. Jamal Bowman has been criminally charged with one misdemeanor count for pulling the fire alarm during a House vote. The September 30th incident took place in the Cannon House office building. The charge willing, full, and knowingly giving a false alarm of fire in violation of D.C. Code. The New York Democrat is ordered to appear in court for arraignment on Thursday. Capitol Police have now concluded their investigation into the September 30th incident that Bowman's office described as a mistake. Quote, "We finished our investigation. Our agents gathered all the evidence, packaged it up, and sent the entire case with charges to prosecutors for their consideration," they said in a statement. Bowman, a former school principal, said he had pulled the fire alarm trying to open a door in a rush to get to a vote, but the incident came as Democrats were trying to delay a vote on a bill to extend the government funding deadline and avert a government shutdown. Yeah, so again, I think the charges are too soft, right? I'm glad that he got criminally charged. I mean, that's a step up, okay? Democrats, for the most part, get away with this stuff unless it's super obvious that you're being corrupt, like Bob Menendez, okay? Like, that was so obvious, okay, that they had to go after that guy. And this right here with Jamal Bowman, again, what he did was obvious. But again, I personally think that he should have got felony charges, right? He should have got felony charges for trying to obstruct an official proceeding. They should have threw the book at him the same way they threw the book at the January 6th protesters, who some of whom were taking a tour of the Capitol, sponsored by the Capitol Police, and got slapped with all types of felony charges, had their rights and freedoms taken away from them, simply for, again, what looked to be some people who were nonviolent, that is, taking a tour of the Capitol. I'm just saying, there is two systems of justice in this country, and it continues to show up time and time and time again. So again, I'm glad that Jamal Bowman was criminally charged. He is criminally charged. It's a misdemeanor. It will probably end up going away, right? But I think that he should be charged with more steeper charges, right? That's what I believe. Quote, "I thought the alarm would open the door," Bowman told reporters about the incident. "I was..."
Man, a little misdemeanor, 6 months in jail. Hey, I'm more like, yeah, whatever. As long as he got hit with something, I ain't gonna get too mad or upset. I ain't gonna be the big boo-hoo bully in town. I ain't gonna be the big boo-hoo bully. It is amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Who's the best rapper alive? That stuff is starting to come back to the forefront. Oh wow. This
Come
is
back
probably
and watch
one of the
football
interesting
all
of this
season long,
conversation.
live
Bill
and
Murray
cable-free with YouTube TV.
and
We want the guys that are smart,
Jordan
willing to
Peterson.
work hard, have goals, and are
Yeah,
ready
I
to
don't
achieve
know
them.
who Jordan Peterson is.
That is a nice looking suit.
Thank you, sir.
Wow. Were you someplace before this?
Well, I like to think so.
No, I mean like someplace
No,
important?
this is all for you.
Really? Thank
Sure,
you.
sure.
I feel even better.
Mm-hmm. You know, 3-piece suits in LA, you know, they go together like this.
Well, I just got to tell you, you look amazing.
Well, thank you,
because
sir.
I know you're at death's door.
Yeah, for a long time.
I've said this before. I said it to Matthew Perry because he was at death's door when he was on my show, the other one. And I said, you know, it's amazing that life, it's so fragile. It's so easy to die. And it's also kind of hard.
This is true.
it's also kind of hard to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And you were close, right?
Oh, yeah.
So why? What was, I forgot what it was.
I don't know, really.
You don't know? Really?
Not really. It was a bunch of things, I think, all at the same time. I don't really know.
But what was the symptoms?
I was in worse pain every moment during the morning and afternoons for 2.5 years than I'd ever been for any moment in my whole life.
What kind of pain?
Oh, I don't know. How would I describe it?
Like all over?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was also like cattle prod pain. So I couldn't sit down. There were months where I was walking 9 to 12 miles a day.
And what is the provenance of this pain? We don't know.
Well, some of it had to do with benzodiazepines.
This nigga be straight. See, listen here now. And I'll be sitting up here thinking about my podcast and stuff like this. What gets me started, what gets me in the mood, what gets me hold on. Hello? Hello? Making sure that wasn't them people, y'all.
Diazepine.
But now, they have a good background, they have a good setup, very comfortable. When somebody come and sit and chill and do an interview with you or do a podcast with you, you really make sure that, you try to have something comfortable. This guy right here is like super everything. I couldn't say it was everything up there for him, but definitely got everything. Bill Maher got everything I do. Like, look, wait, what you say? Look, let me get my drink. Let me get all up in this. I bet this conversation gets deep.
What's that?
Withdrawal. Valium, essentially.
Oh, you were taking Valium?
Yeah, although not very much. And
oh no.
And I got really sick. I got really sick in 2017. In 2016, and I couldn't sleep at all.
People partied on that shit.
I know.
In this town.
Yeah, well, if you do it now and then, it's not so bad. But
no, I always had a low keel, so like any downer I took,
just pass out.
I literally listen to this. When I was living in New York, when I was a young comic, we took a Quaaludes. Remember Quaaludes?
Yeah.
And I passed out. We got about 2 blocks from my apartment. I passed out. I remember it being over the hood of a cab.
Party.
And they just my friend dragged me right back to the apartment and threw me on the bed. And I woke up 14 hours later with the door open. That's how bad my apartment was. The door was open for 14 hours and no one wanted to rob it.
That's sad. That's embarrassing in New York.
So you were on, okay. But then, and I mean, you just look great.
Thank you, sir.
You look better than ever.
Yeah, probably am better than ever.
You look like the fucking Marlboro Man. I mean, you're like tanned, rested, and ready.
Ready to go, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But that suit, I mean, Jesus Christ, you must feel like $1 million to come back from that.
I'm pretty happy, but my wife almost died too, at the same time. So.
Well, maybe that's what caused your sickness.
It didn't help.
Right.
And my daughter was also very sick at the same time.
I mean, I believe rather deeply in the mind-body connection. I mean, I believe that among the parts of Western medicine that annoy me.
Unfortunately, this is not going where I think it's going to go. It's probably got to get somewhere deep up in here. Let's see.
Live streaming can be tricky, and sometimes trying to find the right software to make your
different schools of thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask a dumb layman question before we finish this.
Yeah.
I would love to know, and I'm sure I was told, the difference between sociopath and psychopath.
It's not really a relevant distinction.
Really?
Yeah. It's not really a relevant distinction.
Okay. So predation and parasite.
Right. So a psychopath is a predatory parasite. And it's not, and that means they're very, very low in agreeableness, no empathy, tend to be callous. That's the personality manifestation. They're very unconscientious. They will not formulate or keep verbal contracts.
Like, who are some people who fit this description?
Ted Bundy.
Oh, I was hoping for more.
Well,
Let me put it another way. Who are some people running for president now?
Well, that, you know, that's an open question, right? So that brings us to the next part of this. So Robert Hare's students, a variety of them, started to study psychopathy in its more normal forms, right? Because you can imagine you're so psychopathic that you end up like fully criminal and then you're in prison. But not everybody who has psychopathic proclivities is going to be foolish enough to be criminal enough to be caught, let's say, right? So there's other things that make you get caught if you're a criminal. So they started to study subclinical psychopathy and built a personality inventory to measure subclinical psychopathic traits. And so the traits are psychopathic, so predatory parasite, Machiavellian. So like a Machiavellian individual in preparing for an interview like this would be thinking, okay, well, now I'm going to go on Bill's show. What can I get out of it? You know, how can I elevate my status? What could I use to sell? Like, and then every word would be crafted to extract. Well, every word would be used to extract out something that was only self-serving, right? You know that if your dialogue with someone goes well, what happens is you fall into an honest conversation.
Boy, was getting deep. I ain't gonna get too deep with y'all on that. But it's weird. Like, I guess Bill Myers do really have it out for that boy Trump. You was like, man, who's running for president that can fit psychopath? Like, come on, man. Is it really that deep to get that man to be who y'all creating him to be, or say that he is who y'all really want him to be? Is amazing that people is shooting for the stars to get that man out of office. Court, comedy, movies, skits, whatever it takes. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to hold y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever time you see this. I appreciate people standing in and tuning in. Until next time, I appreciate it. Peace.